How's it, Bergforce? I'm Paul, this is GI Joburg, and it's time for a modern O-ring review. That's right, guys, I got my Super 7 Covergirl. So this review is going to be about Super 7 Covergirl. But first, some messages. I didn't get these toys sponsored. I bought them myself. So everything here is my own view, specifically mine here on GI Joburg. And I have kind of a mini mission with this line right now, okay? The first one is, I want to see this O-ring line kick butt. I want to see it succeed. For selfish reasons, sure. One of those being that there are tons of characters in the comic book, all tons. There's at least 2 handfuls of characters in the comic books and the cartoon, the animated series, Sunbow and Deep, that I would love to see as figurines, as action figures. And the only way that we're going to see that is if these companies take some risks with that. And the only way they're going to take risks is if we support them. Now, the only way that we're going to support them is if these toys are really great and they're irresistible to us. So I feel like reviews like this one here and the reviews of others and the comments that you guys are going to leave down here, hopefully that stuff gets seen or reaches Super 7 and other modern O-ring toy manufacturers, toy creators, and they can understand what makes their toys cool and where their toys are not as cool and where they can improve, and so that we can get the best version of these figures. Hey, maybe I'm being a bit silly, but I think that's the thing. I also don't want to praise these things to high heaven or shoot them down to hell either. I want to try and be as objective and as well. I don't want to be too nitpicky, but you know, we're toy people. We're gonna be a little bit nitpicky here and there. We're gonna be a bit silly here and there. So yeah, cool. That said, let's talk about this amazing packaging. Super 7 has knocked it out of the park with the packaging. It definitely encapsulates that whole retro feel. I would say a little bit better than other guys have done it, at least in my opinion. And I do love that this passes the quick glance test. You look at this and you immediately feel, okay, that's a vintage or retro GI Joe. Upon closer inspection, you realize no, it's a little bit more of a modern vibe, but it does everything not to fool you, but to recreate the feeling of being a kid and buying GI Joes. You know, this kind of toy packaging and these kind of figures do have a magical way of transporting you back into your childhood and giving you that feeling of buying a cool GI Joe. So there is that, and I think they've really won with that. Also, as an extra bonus for the Mint on Card guys, these bubbles have a bit of a kickstand or a boot, in my own terms, and this has been awesome for obvious reasons. And if you guys don't know, these guys can stand up nicely. They don't need to be on a pegboard or pinned or anything like that. You can just display them very comfortably in your shelf or display or wherever you keep your figures. Also, the retro card, the way that the style is done, I feel that it harmonizes pretty well with your existing vintage Mint on Card collection. If you got that, maybe you got a couple of your favorites or something on display in your games room or bar or lounge or however you display your collection, and these will fit in pretty well with that, especially if there's characters that are specific to this line that you want to have with your other favorite characters. So that is a cool consideration. I love that they thought about that. And yes, in a lot of ways this presentation is very Mint on Card and retail friendly. However, I would love to see the Cobra Bat, in other words, the name of the character and its role. I'd love to see that move up a little bit. I feel like it's too close to the glued line of the bubble, and I think it could definitely benefit from being shifted up for 2 reasons. The first one being legibility. It's easier to read. As you're looking at this on screen, it says Cobra Bat. You know, I have to do that for you to see that it says Battle Android Trooper. If it's raised a bit, it's a bit more legible. From a distance, I think a retail side of it, from a retail side, that's much better for the consumer to see that. The other side of it is I like to open my toys and I don't like the idea of tearing this open and ripping the name off. It's just kind of like a little bit of a bugbear for me, and I think it would be great if they could do that. Similarly, all of the accessories are listed here in the bubble. It's difficult for you guys to read this because of my lights hitting it, and that's why I think it should be inside on the yellow area there, inside the card. Okay, that said, card presentation is really beautiful, and it features new artwork that looks like old artwork, and I absolutely love it. I love toy card art. Don't you guys love toy card art? It's the best, and one of the coolest things I'm so happy that Super 7 did this, and I hope that this sets a precedent for other toy companies going forward, is the artist has been credited on the actual card. So I'm just going to bring it up here. It might be a little bit blurry as it takes time to focus, but this illustration is by Jason Edmiston. Sorry, Jason Edmiston. But thank you for your fantastic art on these cards, and thank you, Super 7, for crediting the artist. It's important that we know that real artists create this stuff. It's important that artwork is on toy packaging, because as a kid, I remember seeing a GI Joe figure and going, wow, that toy is cool, but I wasn't quite like sold by the toy, but the card art just took me there. Like, it took me on that next level. It made me go, wow, this toy is just way more interesting than it is. And I'm very thankful for that. And characters include Countdown, Cesspool, and others. Okay, so yeah, quality artwork on our packaging is always appreciated. So thank you, Super 7, for keeping that vibe up. Then we're going to get to the back of the packaging. We have the usual, what you would expect to see there, like the little toy catalog or the catalog of characters. Now, I feel this is kind of a novelty more than a functional thing, but I'm glad it's here for two reasons. A, it's cool to see the clean versions of the artwork, albeit small. And two, I know that when I'm about 20 figures deep in this line, it's going to be great for me to be able to reminisce on exactly which waves these figures belong to. In the old toys and the old GI Joes, being here in South Africa, you would turn the back of the card over and see a full array of GI Joes and Cobras there, and you would obviously want toys that were already out of production for like 2 years, not only because we were in South Africa, but because that figure had just passed its line, its year. And well, I guess that's why we're here, why we're buying GI Joes now, because now we can find them and we've got big kid money, we've got adult money. The other thing I love about this is that the file card is in one language. It's not hokey in its writing. It's pretty much what you expect from a file card. And I love that it's there, because a file card is a super important thing, and it's definitely what helped us as fans grow closer to these characters and create wonderful stories in our heads. And thank you, Super 7, for doing this. And yeah, you guys rock with that. So that's a win. Otherwise, the back of the card is presented well. I feel like it's designed pretty well, and there it is. Don't want to get into too much stuff about the card art now. So onto the plastic. That's what you guys really want to see. So Covergirl. Is Covergirl one of my favorite characters? She's a character I like. I wouldn't say she's one of my favorites, but I do love that we have a new Covergirl toy to play with. And yes, she has got some faults, but I can report that in hand, this toy is at least 30% better than it looked on the production photography, or should I say on the promotional photography. I'm speaking primarily about the face. I feel like the face sculpt is good. It is not great. The eyes are a little bit freaky. They are a little bit shark-like, which I don't love. And I'm also not a big fan of a painted face on an O-ring, or at least not the way that this one has been done. I can see the merit in a painted face. It catches light differently. It's great for toy photography. So there is that. But I'm not the biggest fan of her face, but it is a lot better in hand than it looked on the production stills or on the promotional stills. So that is worth mentioning. Hair is a total win for me, though. It's also kind of soft, so it does allow Covergirl to allows Courtney to turn her head nicely without being too restrained. The rest of the figure is beautifully done, though. Another thing that I was concerned about were the elbows. And the elbows looked very freaky in the promotional shots, but when you have them in hand, they actually fit in quite seamlessly and are quite slim. So it enhances her sort of female physique, which is fun, or her feminine physique, which is fun, but they also don't look weird and obnoxious and gross, which I felt in the production stills they looked a little bit odd. Paint applications are great on this figure, very sharp, pin sharp, and I hope that this is a quality that we see continue throughout the line. The details are fun and chunky, giving it a bit of an animated series appeal. And the coloring here, I think, is also a lot more subdued and a lot more tasteful than how it was presented on those production stills, which I felt, at least on the screens that I was looking at it on, were a bit bright and maybe a bit gaudy. Only thing I don't love about the paint application is the neckline. The paint on my lighting is being very kind to this, but the neckline, the plunging neckline, is actually a slightly different skin tone than the base, and it is quite obvious to the point that it almost looks like she's wearing a shirt under her shirt. That bugs me. Maybe I'm more sensitive to it than you might be, but that is a little bit of an irritation for me. Also, while I'm griping about something, a big issue, and this really does need to be changed going forward on the figures, is her fingers are all the same length, which looks ridiculous. That is very, to me, very Playmobil. That is always, when figures are done like that, it is always a sort of an earmark of a toy company, a lesser toy company. Okay, it's a very silly mistake. It's a very amateur mistake to make, is to have all the fingers be the same length. Vintage Joes don't suffer from this. They look beautiful with that, with their hands. So I hope that this isn't the standard that we're going to see going forward with Super 7's fingers, because that's a very long pinky and a very short index finger, if you want to think about it. But anyway, don't like that. The hands, however, do grip very well. They do grip the weapon quite well, and the weapon is the XLMR. It's the only accessory that Covergirl comes with. It is not the most exciting accessory in the world, but it is executed well here. I like the color being like sort of a light warm gray, or should I say a darker warm gray. The detail is fun as well, and it sits in her hands reasonably well, and I imagine it's going to look great in the hands of other GI Joes. I haven't actually yet tried. I've been very selfish with her weapon. What else can I say about this toy that needs to be mentioned? Yes, I do think the lack of accessories is an issue going forward in this line. However, I am very aware that it is a $20 figure, or should I say $19.99 or 98 cents figure. That said, I really hope that Super 7 in the future does give us some kind of accessory set after they've done maybe the first 2 waves or first 3 waves. We're getting an accessory set to cover all the exciting and interesting accessories that could have come for these figures. And I hope that it's not an exclusive, and that it is actually a retail friendly set, and that it would be available on things like BBTS or channels like BBTS. I care about that because that would amplify this toy line like by tenfold for me. I really do feel like in this initial wave that the accessories do feel a bit slim, the bat having the majority of them. Also worth mentioning is that none of these guys come with stands, so the accessory packs could actually come with all of the stands for the guys in the wave, in the first 3 waves or first 2 waves. That would be awesome, and it would be great if Super 7 can let us know as customers what they need from us to make that kind of thing happen, because I think that is important that does happen. It is something that the Super 7 Ultimate GI Joe line does benefit from, is having great accessories, but so far these guys are going to lack with that. Now, again, it is a $20 figure. I'm not expecting tons of accessories. They obviously have it set up in a certain way. So yeah, Super 7, if you guys do hear this, please let us know as customers what you think or what you feel you need from us as customers to do something like an accessory set like that, because Covergirl does need a big wrench, if I'm to be honest. And yeah. Last thing I will say about this toy is I do think that, well, before I get to that, these guys are a little stiff. And I think I'm going to have the same comment for most of my Super 7 stuff, at least for the first few reviews. They do feel a little stiff. There is a lot of sort of, should I say, what's the word, rhythm that needs to be incorporated into these sculpts to get a more organic feel in them. I don't know how to explain it to you better than that, but if I put this Covergirl next to a Vintage Joe, something like the Cobra, like this Cobra Viper, there is just a bit of swagger to this Cobra Viper that Covergirl still lacks. She still feels a bit stiff. Yes, she's great, and they've really nailed her at quite a high standard, but she is a bit stiff, and standing can be a bit of an issue with these guys so far. I think it's got something to do, I've got a weird theory about it. I think it's got to do with the fact that these are so perfectly sculpted in 3D that, and you guys might laugh at me, but hey, listen, I might be onto something here, because I have looked into this, or in my own capacity, not like I haven't looked online. But I'd love to get some feedback and insight from you guys and let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe you think I'm completely nuts. Vintage figures were originally sculpted by hand, okay? And so there are some sort of analog qualities to their creation. And things aren't, should I say, they aren't perfectly measured, but there are measurements that are taken and obviously great care is put in to make them accurate, which adds some credence to my theory here. I feel like GI Joe, the vintage stuff, I feel like their left lower leg was made like a 0.5 millimeter shorter. Okay, and I feel like it was done intentionally because it somehow lets them stand better. It somehow gives them a little bit more of a rhythm, like I said, like a bit of a swing to them. And it somehow makes them easier to stand up. Whereas I find this Super 7 figure and other modern O-rings that I've played around with, and I don't want to, I'm not going to poo-poo any other lines, that's not my goal here, but other modern releases of GI Joe have got the same problem. Whereas I feel vintage figures stand better, they stand easier. Maybe this is my experience, maybe this is just my experience with the toy or whatever, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would be keen to hear if you think that I'm onto something or that I'm being completely crazy. But that's the most sensible conclusion I could come to with regards to that. And yeah, I'd love to explore that further. That said, I think, and in closing, Covergirl is an interesting choice for the first wave. Covergirl's not like on the top 10 fave character lists at all. And so it was an interesting choice to bring her out in that first wave. I mean, she shares a wave with Snake Eyes and Cobra Commander and a Bat, 3 characters which are stupidly popular. So I feel like Covergirl was kind of done as, well, guys, as you know, female figures tend to not be as popular, or allegedly not as popular as male figures are in terms of their sales performance. However, I think Covergirl was released early for a reason. I think, and that reason being, I think she was the sacrificial lamb, in that the female characters in GI Joe, I think Super 7's feeling a lot of pressure to get them right and to nail them like 150%. And putting out Covergirl to the best they could at this stage was smart because it allows us to give feedback on that. Now, we're a bunch of toy people. We're totally going to have feedback on this. And Super 7 wants to hear that, because I think when they get to making a Scarlet, Baroness, Jinx, even Candy, whatever her name is, Mara, and Raven. Hope Super 7 makes Mara and Raven for us, and Pythona. I think Super 7 wants to make sure they get that 100% right, like 150% right. They want to make sure they've nailed it by then, so that people don't have a major backlash, because those are the kind of characters where people will lose their crap, So yeah, I think good old Covergirl was a bit of a sacrificial lamb in that respect, but is a good figure. Not amazing, almost great, but a good figure. And definitely cool to see a female character in the first wave of a modern GI Joe line. That said, guys, I'm excited about this stuff. It feels good. I like the feel of this. I like that she doesn't feel too terribly fragile. I was concerned about that initially. I'm a little bit surprised that the hands aren't, or that the forearms aren't made of a slightly gummier material, because I do feel like those thumbs could snap if you put too much pressure on them. That is a GI Joe problem, but also it's a GI Joe problem that has been solved. With using a slightly more malleable blend of plastic for the forearm, that kind of thing. I would like to see that happen, because we don't want our modern O-ring Joes having their thumbs pop off. I'm always going to love swivel wrists on these figures, but you know, one has to be realistic. There's only so much tooling that one can actually afford to release these figures on the regular basis that Super 7 is. So yeah, guys, Lady J is good. Not great. I mean, Lady J. I'm thinking of Lady J because I want one. Covergirl is good. Not great, not amazing, but good. And I'm happy I've got her, and I think she's a great representation of the figure. Here's onwards to an awesome line, and I'll see you guys next time for Cobra Commander. Yeah, of course I'm saving the bat for last. Okay, with that said, guys, play with your toys, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and yeah, see you on the next one. Yo, Joe, wait. And a huge thanks to our patrons who support us and help us make cool reviews like this and allow us to get cool figures like this to talk about. You guys are the best. You rock. Thank you so much for your awesome support and for making our great channel. I think it's great. I like our channel. Thank you for making it happen. You guys are the best. Boom!